my black and white scarf, my black and white scarf, my black and white scarf, my black and white. Yeah, it's black and white. We're just black and white. It's my black and white. It's my black and white scarf.
Hello, and you're very welcome to the Town End podcast. It's season 5, episode 10, and the end of the first round of fixtures still sees Dundalk at the top of the table. To go through the game tonight, it's somebody who I spent more of a Friday with than my own wife. Please welcome to the show, Tom O'Connor. Tom, how are you?
Not so bad, Chris, not so bad. It's probably, since about 6 o'clock this evening, the last 20 minutes have been the longest we haven't spent in each other's company. So remains to be seen. I think this will probably be a short podcast for all of our sakes.
Tom, just I suppose we went into this game with 3 changes. Were the changes you expected to see in this Dundalk squad?
Yeah, look, I think if you're going to be harsh, Dundalk haven't played on grass neither this weekend nor last weekend. There wasn't much about at Belfield. So I suppose the changes, made last week were probably to reflect the state of the pitch. And look, you can't talk about resting players. I think, look, we were talking to Kieran Kilduff earlier on, and they were talking about taking each game as it comes. And I mean, he did reference a couple of weeks ago, not taking teams lightly. It was a lovely phrase he used earlier on. I don't know if it's going to come out in the interviews or whatever, but he said, look, Dundalk haven't blown the doors off in any game so far this season. And again, look, there's two 1-0 victories. So last week you saw, Andy Parashiv, Keith Ward and Sean McHale dropping out of the starting 11 for this week. And all three came in at crucial parts of the game tonight. So, I mean, it shows the squad mentality. And again, look, Kieran Kilduff has spoken about that during the season, this sense of a squad mentality. I mean, the 3 who came in, Vinnie Leonard, Harry Groom and Owen Kenny, came into the starting lineup, and 2 of those 3 came off for the 2 of the 3 who came back on. And there was no sense of a loss in form or a low sense of a loss in it's a different way of playing. And look, each game is as it comes. So I mean, if there was a change, you go down to Treaty, that's a different game than at home Cobh. So it wouldn't surprise me to see changes. It's not to say that it's not to say that it would surprise me if the team remained unchanged. And I know it sounds
I know what you mean. Yeah.
There's no, even and James referenced it in commentary, where the 3 into 2, McHale, Mayowa and Vinnie Leonard, there's no discernible difference between the 3. There could be any combination of those 3, and you're not weakening or you're not asking questions or anything. I mean, Kieran said, listen, there was a yellow card picked up by Mayo at halftime, so they brought in Sean McHale. No difference, didn't weaken anything. And it's up to Kieran and Liam Burns and Kieran then to look at the next game of Treaty and go, which combination? So no, it doesn't surprise me. Andy Parashiv, I think, look, both of us are big fans of Andy Parashiv. He still is only 18. In December, he's playing for Glebe North, and he's also playing futsal at the same time. So he's moving from that into, look, it's not full-time football, so to speak, but it's, so it's a big step up asking him to be playing every week. So again, no real surprise to see him rested, or whatever way you want to say it. I don't think we'll see 90 minutes consistently from him, but every time he comes in, he shows, and he shows well. And look, I think he's going to be a key player coming forward. And look, Keith Ward, been there, done it all, grabbed the t-shirt, and then in the tight end of a match, look, that's still 1-0. We saw, about a month ago, when Treaty came flying back in at 2-0, at 1-0, you bring somebody like Keith Ward on, you hold the ball, you move it, and he's a good, solid, experienced head to go. So it's three lads who probably have a good, strong case. I'm not going to bring up the Keith Ward dilemma, we'll say, rather than anything else. Our discussion is only the 2 of us. We've not fall out. We've done well. Not fall out over, but a strong starting lineup like Owen Kenny's had a super game. Vinnie Leonard hasn't put a foot wrong all season for a teenager, incredible. And Harry Groom Harry Groom oozes class. Like,
yeah. If anyone wants to get their comments in tonight for man of the match competition, we will do that at the end. I have a funny feeling, Tom, we might have leaked that one on the stream later on, so it might not come as a massive surprise to anyone. Tom, it seems like every single game that we play at home, we're in danger of repeating ourselves here, but we are going to find it hard to break teams down because they're all just sitting in, and the onus is on us as the home team and as the team sitting on the top of the table to break these clubs down. Should we be surprised that it was a tight, cagey affair in that first half?
Not really. And when you consider the fact that they're missing, like they came into the game with two lads joint on 4 goals each, Barry Coffey and Cian Murphy. And when Cian Murphy wasn't playing, all of a sudden now they're going to be a lot more compact, for one, as in, like, when you don't have a natural out ball. So they naturally would have had Cian Murphy. He's a target man. He's a big, strong, physical presence up front. He's got 4 goals. He's very good in the first division. So when they didn't have him, they were going to be blunt. And when they were going to be blunted, they put Barry Coffey up nominally as a striker, but a lot of the long balls that Martin was hitting was towards the right-hand side, the kind of I don't know, when the old said inside forward line, whatever way, where they were Cian Bargery and Barry Coffey were both going up for the headers. Now, look, ultimately, very little per Barry Coffey, got nothing, and even then he went down a few times, and it was only when I suppose George Nunn came on in the last few minutes that he had a bit of support up there. So when they knew they weren't going to provide any sort of an attacking threat, whereas you might have, if you had a striker out there, you kind of go maybe put a lot of pressure on, try and go 1-0 and then close up shop. That sense of closing up shop probably started a lot earlier in the game because they didn't have that, if that made sense. So today, it would have been interesting to see if they had Cian Murphy, would they have played any different? I don't know. Like, Mick McDermott is an experienced manager for years, but I'm not going to pretend to have any sort of an insight into his. He's only new to the League of Ireland. I'm not going to try and bluff and pretend I know much about his tactical nous, for want of a better word. So would he have just shut up shop anyway? I don't know. I mean, we saw again that treaty match you referenced where they brought on. They started with the big number 99. I'm not even going to try and pronounce his name.
Big Croatian, I think we just named him.
And he just literally he was that battering ram up front, and ultimately, they didn't. If I have to check back my notes, but they didn't score. I don't think when he was on, but he had done enough damage to soften up the defense so that even at 2-0 came back. So look, it was quite a stodgy kind of a game, for want of a better. There wasn't many chances. Was that because Cobh shut up shop? Was it because Cobh played without a recognised striker? I don't know. Are we going to see that more times this season? Probably.
Somebody who's been on great form, of course, of late, Leo Gaxa, probably had the best opportunity, I suppose, in that first half. It got cleared off the line. It was this kind of a scramble around, and it kind of stick out a foot, and there's enough people on the line, I suppose, they clear it. Tonight was a bit more of a war of attrition at times. We probably didn't get to see the best out of Leo Gaxa like we have over the past few weeks.
No, I don't think we saw the best of anybody, really. And it's not to say bar, and I'm not going to, there's a valuable pizza in it for somebody at the end, so I'm not going to jeopardize that. But bar maybe a couple of players who shall remain nameless for the moment, it was very solid, a lot of sevens, and ultimately it's the sevens who are going to win you the league. Somebody who plays a 9 and a 6 is not going to win your league title, because then you have to start guessing whether they're going to play 9 consistent. So there's a lot of consistently good performers for Dundalk. And so while Gaxa, he's very, very clever, he's very sharp up front. His suspension, Dundalk still got through his suspension, but they're a better team when he plays because he's clever. Like, Dean Eby hasn't missed a game. Like, he started every single game so far this season for Dundalk. He is a focal point, but for he keeps the defenders busy, but to have Ebbe's cute enough, to have Ebbe holding defenders at bay, it means Gax is then cute enough to come in and pick up the pieces from behind him. So for me, even though they don't play as a 9 and a 10,
Yeah.
A traditional 9 and 10 in the, geez, we're going to show our age here, but like the Quinn Phillips kind of, or the SAS Sutton and Shearer, or look, as a Villa fan, you're going to say Savo and Dwight York, like Leeds, Robbie Keane and Viduka. Again, we're going to say our age, but Ebbe is always going to annoy defenders and be a great, like it's a focal point or an outball or whatever. And Gax is just clever on one side. You have Darren Horgan coming in off the other wing. So yeah, and look, yeah, that was the only real chance, and it was just a bit of cleverness, clever bit of running, and ultimately Gax was unlucky. In the best chance of the first half. I mean, Gax has already got 3 goals so far this season from 6 starts. That's a decent return for somebody who's not the starting striker, so to speak. So I mean, yeah, look, it's a lovely partnership, and long may it last.
Just on the starting lineup there, I suppose we've seen Dean Ebbe through the middle. Owen Kenny can be left, right. Tonight he seemed to be more right, with Daryl Horgan on the left and probably Leo Gaxa in the 10, like you say. Is there a fluidity between those players that they can, I suppose, interact and mix between those positions? It's something we've seen Daryl Horgan probably at the very start, first few games. He seemed to be more in the 10, and that changed since. Well, like, is it something maybe that Kieran's just not 100% sure on?
Funny, I remember watching, now going way back, watching when Stephen Kenny was playing that 4-2-3-1 formation, kind of, if you want to call it that, where you had Darryl playing there. You might have had maybe Patrick McElhenney playing in the 10, and I'm trying to think maybe John Mountney playing right wing. Mountney obviously wasn't splitting as much over to the left-hand side, but you had where Darryl could come in. You saw, like, remember watching academy players play, the academy was playing the same, the under 19s as it was then would have been playing a similar style. And I remember talking to, I think, a couple of coaches at the time and saying, listen, it's really interesting that they can play across that front line at that point. Now I'm going back maybe 6-8 years at this stage, like where the academy was coming through and playing, where the players across that front line were all interchangeable, which case as a defender, you don't know who to pick up and when. Again, it's nice to see it at senior level here, because you have 3 players. Like Owen Kenny plays as a 9 sometimes for the under 20s last season, and he also plays sometimes as a 10. See, Mo Harris is on the bench, didn't see action tonight, but Owen Kenny and Mo Harris play your more traditional 9 and 10, so that's where Kenny would have grown up playing more centrally usually. Darren Horgan we saw as an out-and-out winger earlier on in his career. He's now not, he's still very, very clever, but he's now, like you say, the crossing over between himself and Leo Gaxa. Leo Gaxa, probably more of a central player naturally, like again, where he wants to cut in. He's not going to put the ball on the byline. Your crosses are coming, and we've seen the assists coming from even tonight. Now we see where the ball's coming in from the left-hand side from Sean Keogh. So the likes of Sean Keogh is going to provide more natural assists through crosses than Leo Gaxa. Gaxa is going to be that clever ball, the clever pass, coming inside doing 1-2s, maybe with Dean Ebbe, with Darren Horgan, with Owen Kenny. So it's that ability to switch positions, also change the focal point. So if you have Darren Horgan and Sean Keogh on that left-hand side, you're not necessarily going to have only crosses coming in, if that makes sense. So it's that ability to change also keeps defenders on edge, and it's only a good thing for them, Doc. Like,
I suppose going in 0-0 at half time, I suppose what does Kieran Golovin do? Like, do you say stick to the same? The plan is there, and through war of attrition, if you want to put it that way, you will eventually break these down. Or like we have heard him kind of read the riot act before to the players at halftime, but it didn't seem to be, like, not through lack of enterprise or trying to break down Cobh tonight. It just seemed that they were very regimental out in front of us, and it was going to just take a moment of class to maybe decide this match.
Yeah, and that's ultimately it. I mean, if you go, and especially an away team who are very, like, they were relying maybe on set pieces and stuff like that. A lot of long throw-ins. Kim Bardry was firing them in from the left hand side or from the right hand side, and Nolan Evers, number 12, was firing them in off the left hand side. That was where a couple of corners as well from Shane Griffin were, that was where the damage was going to be. So I mean, if you're too attacking and you're going to open up, if you're trying to force the game early,
Yeah,
they pick the one goal, they get that goal of a set piece, they get that goal, and they just sit back and they retreat and they just become more and more compact and see it out. Whereas I don't think he panicked. I think he kind of looked at it and went, we are doing all right here. We're going to get it. They will, when you're knocking at the door that long, there will be a slip. There will be that moment when that little bit of class can exploit a weakness, which ultimately, I know weakness is that wrong word, but can exploit maybe a little bit of space. And ultimately, that was the difference between. It was literally one moment of, what you want to call it, magic, or one moment where, like we saw Andy Parashiv against Longford set up Owen Kenny's goal through that lovely, a little bit of tricky footwork. It was that little bit of something different. That's what Parashiv brings. That's what a couple of other players can bring. Gaxa, we mentioned, Sean Keogh has it as well. It's just that little bit of X factor, that little bit of difference. The first division, there's an awful lot of players in it who are very good. I mean, you look at that Cobh team, it's littered. Yeah, look, obviously, geographically wise, it's going to be littered with a lot of Cork City players. A lot of them have Premier Division experience. But you also bring in Niall O'Keefe. Niall O'Keefe has played with Waterford for years.
exactly.
You're bringing in that. So, I mean, they're not stupid. They're not going to be easily fooled. So you need that little bit of a difference, that little bit of that something clever. And I think when you have the confidence that lies within your squad, you don't necessarily, you just trust the process for one, was one of those cliche words. And I'd imagine, like you said, there have been half times where they've needed to crank it up a bit. But in that game where it's two solid teams, it's which side has the X factor. And with Cobh missing Cian Murphy up front, they were missing that little bit of something to.
It was the timing of the goal tonight, Tom. Is that probably also crucial? It's it's 10 minutes into the second half, and it's probably for a Cobh and I suppose their game plan tonight. It was probably to frustrate and hold out as long as possible, and like I say, then bring on the substitutes and bring in the long throws, bring in the long balls from the free kicks, and put us under pressure, because that's pretty much what 3D done that night. And so that's probably going to be copy and paste the game plan to play up in Oriel. But just even talk about the goal, like Sean Keogh, as soon as he picked up that ball on the edge of the box, like, we're only thinking back to not that long ago where he absolutely leathered one into the roof of the net from an obtuse angle. So we're kind of thinking, is this going to happen again? But like he has that sleight of foot and a ball that's sticking to him as he runs into the box. He's been a defender himself. He's probably well aware that no one wants to make this tackle now, because you've entered the box, you're into a danger zone, you get timings wrong here, it's a penalty, potential red cards and everything come into mind. So players are extra cautious these days when there's a thundering run like that go in. But his momentum carries him right to the byline again. This time, of course, he didn't try to lift it into the roof of the net, but he drives it back across goal. We talked about Dean Elbe or Leo Gax's chance in the first half that, there's just people in the box, anything can happen. And this time, just before, it looks like Owen Kenny can try to stab it in. The unfortunate Hakkinen puts it into his own net.
Yeah, and like, the two of us are goalkeepers. We'll not say we were, but we are goalkeepers. We're not comfortable with retirement yet. But they talk about this corridor of uncertainty or whatever. Like, call it whatever you want. When you drive a ball across the 6-yard box, no matter what, it's very dangerous. As a keeper, you can't come out. You come out, you're causing more. So you drive it low and hard along the edge of that 6-yard box. it's going to ricochet somewhere. It could ricochet out to somebody who's coming in, making a forward run, or as we saw tonight, can just ricochet in. I mean, Jonas Hakkinen is an experienced defender. It just, he'd nowhere to go. It just hit him and went in. But ultimately, when you thump it low and hard, people don't have the time or space to get out of it. We saw, I think, another effort shortly after it where I can't remember who got on the end, didn't get on the end of it. It just whistled wide again.
Mm-hmm.
You see that once you put a dangerous ball in, that's we're talking about the different options. He has the option then where he can dink it in, where he can actually, give it back out to Darryl Horgan, who can also lob it in, and it changes the point of the attack. Or we saw a couple of minutes after that where his confidence was high and he didn't bother. He came across on his right foot and have a shot.
That's right.
Primarily left-footed, left back to cut inside and have a right-footed effort. His confidence through the roof, and rightly so. He's but again, it goes back to taking that. He's probably spotted where if he runs hard and fast at the Cobh defender in that gap between where the right-sided centre half and the right back was, they can't touch him. So then at least he'll get that dangerous cross in. And once you get the dangerous cross in, then it's up to the forwards to be there. And when you've guys like the likes of Dean Ebby, who's experienced, he's going to be there. You've the likes of Leo Gaxa, who could possibly come in. So, I mean, you're Jonas Hakkinen and you're looking up and you're going, where's Dean Ebby? Where's Leo Gaxa? I mean, the ball just hits you and goes in. So, but that's all down to Sean Keogh putting in the good ball there.
Yeah, it's funny. I'm just actually looking back at the replay of the goal. Just as he accelerates, you're right. He takes the defender with him, but right in front of Hakkinen, his central defending partner actually leaves the front post and goes to Sean Keogh, and that actually creates more havoc behind him because then Hakkinen kind of gets caught on: do I stay or go, or what do I do now? And that actually, by the time that ball's driven straight across, Hakkinen has no time to react, and suddenly it's in the back of the net. And like you said, Dean Ebbe is right behind Hakkinen, directly in his point of view would have been Owen Kenny, obviously, and then you've Leo Gaxa trying to stab it in just in front of Hakkinen. So it's nearly a three-prong attack on him, and he had to just do something because it was a tap in for somebody without it. But I'm just that bit of acceleration and to drag another defender away from the 6-yard box as he's entering just creates a space and a little bit of confusion, I suppose, for that. Like you say, we come in later on and we see him have a go on the right foot. Owen Kenny unlucky not to score tonight. A good piece of play. I think on commentary you said probably looking to go on the outside post instead of going back to where it was on the near post with the keeper.
Yeah, well, look, when he's coming across, look, I suppose the natural angle is to, well, the way he was running was to keep going direct and to shoot direct. Pulling the ball across him, maybe it's a harder effort. We're the other side, where the keeping angles rather than the striker. So we let that go, but in terms of a goalkeeping point of view, it's far easier to save that coming there because you know that if it's going that off his left-hand side, that's going out for either a corner or for a throw in there. If I'm going across my right-hand side, I'm pushing. I have to do a lot more to push that ball out of the danger zone. If I'm, unless it's a relatively weak shot and I catch it, that ball is most likely going into an area of danger where you have coming across, you have either Sean Keogh or Darryl Horgan coming into that space. So from my point of view, pulling it across the keeper would be the way forward. I think Owen Kenny, his goal scoring, his greatest strength is his willingness to run. And Hassel and Harry defenders, I think the first, 10, 15 minutes, he had Hassel and Harry, both Hakkinen and Coleman, into conceding 2 or 3 corners out on that far side. It's that, I don't know, by saying gaminess, it sounds like he's,
I know what you mean.
But it's that willingness to make the dirty run. He might know he's not even getting near the ball, but he's just putting the pressure on. And ultimately, if you have a defence that can't relax, that's where mistakes are going to happen. That's where space is going to be created because they're on their toes. So, I mean, in terms of his finishing, it's not his greatest strength. He's got a couple of goals this season. He scored last season as well. It was a goal against Pats. I think he got 2 last season, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
It was Pats one. I can't remember who the second one was against, and the 2 this season as well. But his ability to put defenders under pressure is, for me, is his greatest strength. So you have that mix across that front three where you have the guile of Gaxa, you have the devilment, the magic, the whatever you want of Horgan, who can do, like, the man's a senior cap international, Republic of Ireland international. Like we've seen over the past decade, he's electric, he's incredible. Is the pace still there? I don't know, but the upstairs is still there. And then you have that youthful enthusiasm. And again, that sounds demeaning. It's not. Kenny's more than that. If the finishing comes, he's going to be a top class player. At the minute, he's an important cog in the Dundalk attacking quartet, for want of a better phrase.
Would it be right in saying, Tom, the last 10 minutes, 5 minutes of the match kind of fell into a similar pattern we've seen, where maybe the substitutes, the impact of or whatever, we seem to have kind of fallen back slightly. I've mentioned, and you've mentioned it already as well, the pressure we come under and the lead we surrendered at home to Treaty that time. The only time, of course, we dropped points this year. But did you see a lot more resilience tonight? We've seen, especially at the end there, just ticking over the 90-minute, a long throw in, and Peter Cherry comes out and collects that, and there must have been 4 or 5 lads over to kind of pat him, keep him down on the ground at the same time. But just kind of that's the sort of goalkeeping that you're looking for at that time. Of course, the experience of Peter Cherry as well. But hit the deck, collect that ball through a body of players, and just take that pressure off the defence.
Yeah, I mean, look, ultimately that's what you want to keep coming back to us. I love when I'm on here, we can just
there's no one else to interrupt us. It's great.
Yeah. But as a goalkeeper, that's where, it's the last couple of minutes, and look, unfortunately for Peter Cherry, we saw it where that mistake he made for Owen Martin's shot. Mm-hmm. Everybody then dropped back 5 yards.
Yeah.
So where he just didn't have the space to come out and collect it, because everyone was that bit nervous and they just kind of went back and go, we don't want to concede. Ultimately, same as if there's a big red button in the corner and says, don't press the red button, you're going to press the red button. Don't think of a pink elephant, you're thinking of a pink elephant. Don't concede a goal, we're suddenly dropping back to concede the goal. Whereas in this case, he had the space to come out. He came out, he claimed there was... No, I think there was one corner he got lost under, and we got lucky. We got and I'm saying we got lost under. That could be very harsh. Ultimately, we got a free out of it. Myself and James and commentary couldn't see where there was too much of a foul. Now, looking back, if we go back and watch the game, maybe he was pushed out of the road, but that's the only time when he kind of got caught under it, or appeared he did. And like I say, if that was a foul, maybe it is. Maybe it is. Maybe I'm being harsh on him, and I see we have American relatives there who are commenting, and that's good to see.
You gave enough shout outs today.
I do. I could charge him in euros or dollars. It doesn't make a difference. The Cavan man's not going to pay up anyway. So, I think by not I know I can reference that before in the Treaty game. If the second goal is never scored, if the first goal isn't conceded, so that space is there. Cherry comes out, he claims it, and he does. Man's 41 years of age. He won the league with Dundalk 11 years ago first. He's been in the league. I'd have to look back, but I don't think he's missed a season since, between Cork, Derry, Bray and Cliftonville. He hasn't missed a season of football. He's consistently played. I know he didn't play for Dundalk for a couple of seasons, but he was there, operating in a top flight environment. So where you are, look, we all make mistakes. We've all made mistakes. Recently made mistakes and goals this way. We're not playing in the first division of the Premier Division. But
right.
When it mattered, he came out, he took that ball. I think he took a couple of them, and then the defence can give him that space, if that makes sense. So yeah, look, I mean, he came out, he did what he had to do, came out, I wouldn't say dominated the box, because there wasn't that many that coming in, but when the throw-ins, or when that, the set pieces were coming in the last few minutes, you were looking at it, it's still 1-0. So to be fair to Cobh, without the recognised striker, their game plan has worked. If they're, if they're still in the game, much like Treaty, and look, fortunately enough for Dundalk, they come out the right side of it. Like,
yeah, it's as I said. I think in his post-match interviews, I think Kieran Clough mentioned that they're finding different ways to win. And if you're to maintain your position at the summit, that's really what you have to do, because everybody is going to be trying to find that chink in the armor somewhere. They're all going to be trying something different, which you were probably seeing. Like I've never seen, in particular, as many long throws in the Premier Division. It's such a rarity, but it seems to be every team has this in their arsenal in the First Division. It's something completely different we've never really seen before. So it's these new tests, I suppose, we're getting all the time. Kieran talked about when that kind of happened tonight, that we've seen it through. That's something different as well. But it's good to see those different types of victory.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, the reason we don't see as many long throw-ins and all that kind of crack, I suppose Ollie Horgan is assistant manager now at Galway, and he's obviously his long throw technique is restricted to Galway now. So not so much in the First Division with Finn Harps anymore. But
No.
The gospel according to Ollie is still spreading. So, and look, Tony McNamee is still. I didn't see Harps game tonight, but I'm pretty sure he probably fired in a few long throws. I remember Mark Ludden for Treaty. An exceptional talent for it. Look, Keane Bardry, a right winger, you could be all over anywhere in the pitch, and you could be given the ball for a long run. But yeah, look, I mean, and it goes back to the UCE game. Every game we've won differently, and the proof is in the pudding. Only 3 players have started all 9 games for Dundalk. Ed Irvin, Darrell Horgan, and Dean Abbey are the only 3 to. So I mean, you look at whenever Sean Keogh and Vinnie Leonard were missing, you have to play a different game plan there. Whenever Conor O'Keefe was obviously signed, he's the most experienced, apart from Darrell Horgan, he's the most experienced player there. You're looking, try and bring experience across the back line. Dean Abbey, very experienced, alongside Darrell Horgan in the attacking quartet. In your midfield, you have Keith Ward, even though then Harry Groom is relatively young, 24, 25.
Yeah.
23. I was giving him an extra year. He's still experienced at the top end. Whereas in defence, like, you've all teenagers.
Yeah.
Or you've Mayowa.
Mayowa would be the senior. Yeah.
Yeah.
O'Keefe just brings that age group up. That's about it.
Yeah, but that's it. I mean, so he's signed there. You're looking at going, right, well, look, O'Keefe is going to play right back, and he's going to look across the line, and he's going to be the one who's bellowing. And he's missed half the season through with injury. And you have Ed Irvin, who's your anchor point, or I'm going to say 6. He is 6, but he's that.
He likes that quarterback role, though, doesn't he?
Well, I was going to say the player who is no longer with us but won a league title at Linfield shall remain unnamed, but it would be amazing to have him back. Plays a similar role. Now, by no means am I equating Mr. Dervin to Mr. Shields at the moment. They're, in terms of where their operational levels are, they're clearly miles away. You're a minute, and that's no disrespect to Dervin. Dervin's a superb player in the division we're operating at the minute, and at the level we're operating at the minute. But when he was repositioned to right back, superb to do a job there, but he's not Conor O'Keefe at 31 passing a defence. So the fact that they won, and again, there's no disrespect to Dervin, but Dervin's not a right back. We actually saw him; he was superb as a pressing right winger for Galway. Do you remember in there too?
That's right.
Victory. Like, we all looked at him. We were trying to figure out. I think I was commentating with possibly Jonathan Higgins at the time for Galway Bay FM, and we looked at the team. She couldn't figure out how they were going to play because they had no striker that day. But
that's right.
But again, so you look at that versatility. You look at that squad setup. I think was it Longford actually? It was the Longford game. I think that Ned Irvin ended up playing left back towards the end. Yeah. So it's that reminiscent of Robbie Benson playing left back at one point.
Right.
But it's that sense of versatility, and it's that sense of grinding it and willing to sacrifice for the team. I'm sure that Ed Irvin didn't sign as a left back, but when he was asked to fill in and do a job at the end, he did it. you're looking at the likes of 16, like Sean Spade. I think Sean Spade ended up at right back for that game because he come off for somebody else. It's this sense of doing a job for the team, winning in a particular manner against a particular team. And, like Kieran Kilduff said that to us tonight, one game at a time. So, it's the versatility, which I know sounds stupid probably or obvious, but it's the versatility which allows you to win in different ways, if that makes sense. I mean, Harry Groom, what game was it? Was it that long for a game? Your back four was Dervin right back, Harry Groom centre half. I can't even remember. Sean Keogh was gone at left back. Was Sean Spade at left? Sean Spade
was in. Yeah.
No, don't get me wrong. Sean Spade will be a super player in years to come. But when he's playing alongside two midfielders at centre half and right back, I can't remember who's left back. I presume it was Sean McHale, but I need to double check on that. So you really only have one player in their natural position. Like, that was incredible. So it's that willing to dog out. You look at Peter Cherry. Peter Cherry has played more games this season than he has for the previous 3, possibly, if not more. I need to look back. I doubt he was he was signed on a playing contract, but I doubt he expected to play, if that makes sense. Enda Minogue was one of the standout keepers in the first division last year. It's a great coup to get him, but he hasn't, since the Kerry game, he hasn't kicked the ball. And it's that sense of, and then again, Kieran Kilduff said it to us tonight, the squad, using the squad. You have 3 players who've started all 9 games. The rest of the squad, while it's a small squad, he actually referenced as well Shane Tracy for that game against Longford and hasn't had a sniff since. I thought Shane Tracy was exceptional in that game against Longford. You watch that game, you turn the sound off and you go, who's that, number 26? Who is that number 26? You're not going to say he's an 18-year-old who's suddenly just been parachuted in. And for me, that's the strength of it. That, again, Shane Tracy, like I said, I don't think he's kicked the ball really since. If he starts against Treaty, would it surprise you? Possibly not. Will he go and do a good game? Based on what we've seen, So, I mean, there are lots and lots of different ways Dundalk have played and won this season. And, I mean, the proof is in the pudding. One game where you were relatively cruising the last 10 minutes, and that's the only drop points so far in this quarter. It's exceptional.
Yeah, we'll get on to our man of the match competition very soon. It's a bit of a runaway in one direction, I'm not going to lie, but there is a nod to Jason Crawley had just mentioned Dervin there as well. Just the standards high, really surprised me this year. Great attitude and a leader. And O'Keefe, very solid. Keogh as well. It's getting better every game. Baby Jason just covering all bases there as well, though. So well played, Jason. I always like those ones. If we just look, Tom, I suppose before we do our man of the match, the opening fixtures, this round of fixtures, to come out of this undefeated, I think James Rogers there tonight was saying it could be a bit of a record tonight, in the opening round of fixtures, to have that many, have the points total that we have, could just be a new club record as well. It's it was important, I think, for Kieran and Ken to be able to stamp their authority, and us going down to the first division, we are always going to be a game where players were going to up it against, because you think of all the illustrious history and very recent history that we've had in European I've lost my run there. European trips.
Looking for, but
that was the word. That was the word. So all those European exploits, titles, everything else that we've had, the players we've come in on big wages, whether we're warranted or not is another question. So for us to drop down there, it's a game where I think a lot of players, managers, teams and fans would target saying, we need to go down and not teach them a lesson, but do you understand what I'm kind of saying?
Welcome to the first division.
Yeah, it's never, the whole point of it was never to make this easy for us. And I don't think it is easy either. And I think that's really important, what Kieran was saying, that they've had to dig out and find different ways to win. But in saying that, to be where we are, Tom, for me, it's a bit of a surprise. I don't think I expected Dundalk to be there, but because we find ourselves there, we kind of also have to look at and saying it's brilliant because when you know you're that target and you have that target on your back for every team, I think that's actually maybe up the standard for these Dundalk players, that they know they can't afford to drop it, because as soon as they drop something like the 3D match, suddenly everyone's like, oh, Dundalk, they're not that great. They couldn't defend this. They couldn't do, there's problems here. They can slip up. And I feel that we've gone on this run since then, and it's kind of in spite of that, if you know what I mean. It's in spite of these teams coming and being dogged against us, and in spite of all these injuries we've had and international call-ups. And to be fair to Kieran and Ken, they haven't, kind of had a result where they said, well, what do you expect? We've lost, players to international call-ups and stuff like that, and we've had real bad injury run, but they've still dug in there and they've still found a way. For me, to the other teams, that's a worrying sign. Like, if for us as Dundalk fans, I don't mind us, if we do go on a great run and that ends up in some sort of promotion, that'd be fantastic. But if you're the rest of the teams, you'd be worried, saying, how are we going to knock Dundalk off this little perch right now?
Yeah, and look, everybody would have loved to get a crack at Dundalk and take them down a peg or two, like you're saying. And especially given, I suppose, because Dundalk did achieve so much, that when you're like, I'm looking at, take a random example, right? Andy Parashif wears the number 23 jersey.
Or 30.
Right? Well, yeah. A couple of seasons ago, 23 was John Mountney. Mm-hmm. John Mountney has played Europa League games, has won multiple titles with Dundalk. So you're handing, to a, like, and with the greatest respect to other clubs, 23 jersey might mean nothing. But Kieran Kilduff is handing that jersey to Andy Parashif. He's saying, look, you're holding a jersey that I played alongside a guy wearing 23 jersey who was possibly one of the, over the last 20 years, he's probably one of the most consistent Dundalk players that ever played. Mm-hmm. He came in 2012 as a relative unknown from a small town in Mayo, and is carving out a career. Even now, he's still in the top division, playing right back for Bows. His leadership was, he was one of the top, in the leadership group, or whatever you want to say. Like, so the jersey, I'm not saying it carries weight, but every jersey number, looking through it, like number 3, Sean Keogh's a teenager, in sparkling form, but that jersey was owned by Brian Gartland for so long. So the Dundalk number 3 jersey has the potential to weigh heavy, that not loner clubs now looking at it going, that Dundalk or a scalp, but even the younger players coming in, or even the not so younger players coming in. Conor O'Keefe has taken the number 2 jersey, who wore it for a decade, the most decorated right back that ever played the game.
Exactly.
Yeah. And you had potential for players to be weighed down on it. Dean Nevy takes the number 9 jersey. Who's that? That's Pat Hoopin, Dundalk's leading goal scorer ever. And the players, it's a credit to the players that not alone, like you say, have the teams who are waiting to take them down a peg or two, but every one of those jerseys was worn by the manager. Like, even, look, it's funny, this thought struck me last week. Owen Kenny wears number 16. Who made that famous? Well, first lad ever to bring Dundalk into Europa League group stages. First lad to score. He's managing him now. So not only for the pressure of being managed by, you're also wearing his jersey. Do you know, and I know that sounds somewhat trivial, but I mean, you go back and you look at, I mean, you talk United, like where the number, how heavy the number 7 wore on certain players after Cantona left, number 16 jersey at United after Keane left. The number 9 Newcastle shirt was, was one that was massive after Shearer left. They talk about, that's still going on. It's never mentioned at Dundalk this season. So there was the potential for that to weigh heavy as well, especially when you have the likes of things been cast back to the club when it was at its peak. You have the likes of Kieran Kilduff, who's still there. You have the likes of Darrell Horgan, still there. Peter Cherry, part of the team that kicked it off. Keith Ward, who's part of the furniture in and out and knows the history of the place. They've never been burdened by playing for Dundalk, or it never appears they're burdened for playing for Dundalk. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So I mean, again, that's more credit to the players. And even then, you look at the summer. We're now finished the first quarter of the league, 9 games in, top of the division. After the next quarter, you're looking at the summer transfer window been opening. You're
Jesus.
looking at you're looking at the potential to strengthen further, and you're
Mhm.
not going at the minute, barring injuries. Is there an area where you could say, well, somebody coming from the first, or sorry, somebody coming from the Premier Division is going to strengthen us? I mean, you look at the likes of Gaxa, who was on loan went from Galway last season on loan, came into the at loan team and brought them forward a bit. Like, you're looking at the Dundalk side now and you're going, is there anywhere where we could bring it up a level again? At the moment, the way we're playing 3 games or 5 games in a row, one in a row, 15 points out of 15, the last 3 games clean sheets. Now, look, don't get me wrong, we haven't come back to Kim Clough saying, we haven't blown the doors off. There hasn't been any of that. But there's no area where there's obviously strengthening needed. And that, at the moment, that's the way I'm looking at it, which is an exceptional way to be as well. Like,
I think those the run of results though kind of backs up what you're saying, Tom, as well. Uh, i- if I think if these run of results might have been different, I think some of those questions and things you just mentioned, like the likes of the jerseys weighing on the players, may have come into it. But I think actually because of the run of results, it's probably grown confidence, which is great, especially for these younger players, because what Kieran and Ken have done is they've actually created this environment where between, like you said, having the likes of Awardy and O'Keefe, Peter Cherry, and you bring in then into that mix, I suppose, some of these younger lads. It's a perfect environment, and it's a perfect way of playing football at the moment as well, and that's leading to this. Um, like I want to say a safe zone, but you know what I mean. It's not safe by any means. But luckily in this opening round of fixtures, that's what they have been able to create. And when you look around at the other teams in the league, you just don't see that sort of harmony. And I suppose that's what happens when you're on a run of good results. Is people are happy to be playing, and that makes the difference. But it's a credit to the team, like you say, and it's a credit to the players that everyone's been able to step up, yeah, and into that, because it can't be easy playing for Dundalk. It can't be easy playing for Dundalk down a division when you're the number one target for everybody in that league. And it's a credit to them all that they have been able to turn that around and turn that into a positive. And I think that's what we're seeing. Even in that treaty game, Kieran never come out and threw anybody under a bus. And I think that's part of it. It would have been very easy to say, well, we had for 85 minutes, we totally ruled that game. And if it wasn't for these mistakes, and these are the people I want to blame for that, but like they never did. And I think that's the environment that they've then created, that when, like you just said, when we're down to the bare bones at the back, you have a Sean Spake, somebody come in. Yeah, people playing out of position. It's not their natural position, and you're not going to get 100% out of these people. A bit like Harry Groom playing in defence. You're not going to get what you get from Harry Groom by him playing a centre back. But will he do a job for you? Yes. And is he confident to do that? And have you created an environment that he can do that? And if he makes a mistake, everyone's not going to be lambasting him to say, like, what was the point of that? And I think that's real credit to everybody up in Oriel at the moment.
yeah, and look, there's one word you haven't mentioned there so far.
I mentioned every other word.
It's a sense of trust. I'm looking down here, I have a sheet in front of me of all the of the squad basically, and they've all played a part. Every one of the first team squad, bar Sammy Safe, who's the under-20s keeper, has yet to feature. Dahi Folan has yet to feature. Okay, a Dahi Folan sub-keeper we signed from Shell's Academy has yet to feature. They're both young keepers. They're playing away in the under-20s, right? TJ Malloy Murray and Aidan Russell haven't really done the whole pile this season, but he came out. Malloy Murray made his debut against Drogheda. We were there for last game of
Yeah.
or last season. Aidan Russell I don't know if you were at that game, the Malahide game. Then seeing you come up, come on, 3-0 up, wins a penalty. Is the ball taken off? Not a hope. Give him to him. He has the trust to give an 18-year-old. Now, look, don't get me wrong. He's an underage international Dominican Republic. He's a good player, but he trusts an 18-year-old to take a penalty.
Yeah.
He trusts, Malloy Murray. I'd say we'll see more of him as the years go ahead. Shane Tracy trusted him, the 18-year-old, to put him into the centre of midfield against Longford. Every other player has played regularly. Sean Spates made 1 start, 3 appearances. Mo Harris, like I say, 18-year-old striker with the 20s, has appeared 3 times this season. He scored 8 goals in his last 8 under-20 league games of 2024. The man is in, he was in a really hot streak of form. As such, that earned him a place in the senior team this year and the senior squad. And it's not as if, like, we saw, and again, look, we're talking about operating at different levels and stuff like that, so I don't really want to but you see players who are in the squad for the sake of being in the squad. When we're in the Europa League squad, there's that B level, or not B level, but they're the B players who are the academy players who can be put in to kind of fill out the squad. Look, we saw at the likes of, some of them got playing game. The likes of Jamie Wynn, who actually ended up at Cork City, he was out of the professional game at the minute. In the League of Ireland anyway. The likes of those guys who didn't really feature. Whereas looking down here, like, this squad is this squad. This squad is a senior squad. It's not a few token academy lads thrown in to bring up ratios. Like, you're looking back Cork City for up to maybe last week, they had, bar their sub keeper Conor Brand, the rest of the other 8 of their subs were all academy lads. Now, maybe one guy called Sam Bailey, who's a defender coming back from injury, might be coming in around the first team. Cathal O'Sullivan, obviously, who we heard, who was doing great things in the first division, coming in, but the rest of them are not going to feature. And look, that's an injury crisis that Cork City are going through, and those lads will be back playing under 20s. But pretty much everybody who's appeared on the Dundalk bench has been there with the chance that they were going to be coming on. I know Conor O'Keefe and Mayo were in and around the squad for a period when they might have been carrying injuries and may not have been going to play. But you're not making, like back in our day, lads were making appearance fees for making squads. I remember when I was on the verges of League of Ireland squad with Monaghan United, you were getting, not that I ever did, but lads who I was playing with the under-21s were being called up to make the bench, and then they were getting a fee. Like, that kind of crack isn't in existence because Burnsy and Ken Kiernan and Kieran Kilduff they've a trust that if you're on the bench, there's a chance you'll come on and do a job for us somewhere.
Yeah.
And it's that, and the proof is in that. Like say, bar TJ Malloy Murray and Aidan Russell in the league, everybody else has played fairly regularly. Like, poor Norman Garr, but only for that injury against Treaty. Our heart goes out to him.
Yeah, absolutely.
You would have seen, and again, he could have made a real games like the likes of today, where last few minutes, throw on a speedy winger and give us an out ball. So you're flipping it round that, so yeah, it's that sense of trust that even if you don't play a part in one game, you need to be ready for the next game. Shane Tracy, a perfect example there, and it'll be interesting to see, especially with the double game week now. If I'm right, we're playing in Treaty on Friday and playing at home against Harps on Monday. Yeah. From in there, you're going to have to imagine that there's some element of squad rotation.
Yeah, it would have to. Yeah, you can't do those back-to-backs without somehow utilizing everybody and playing every position, getting other lads in and trying to freshen up positions on it. And like you say, you're probably looking at that yellow card to Mayo tonight. The reason he's taken off at halftime is purely because of that. And you're thinking you can't afford to get him suspended, because the likes of this weekend coming, to have a larger squad to pick from is so important. And like you just said, you have that level of trust that Sean McHale's going to come in and do equally as good, and that's testament to them all then. And
that's like when you take off, like a key cog, as we've seen there in the season so far, Harry Groom, right? Except I'd need to double check back. 7 starts. The only game he didn't start was the game against UCD last week, right? And yet, when the game is in the melting pot today, he takes him off and he brings on Keith Ward and Andy Parshiv. Do you know what I mean? It's that level of trust that's there.
Yeah, 100%.
So no, I think as long as that stays and as long as players are getting regular game time, that will remain. Look, as the season goes on, if players aren't, that's when it becomes a little bit trickier. But for the moment, that it from the outside anyway,
Exactly.
it's good.
Right, Tom, we must be nearly fed up of looking at each other and talking to each other. We'll quickly knock on to the man of the match competition. As I say, it's pretty heavily weighted in one direction, but as I said, anyone watching LOI TV might be tipped off on this one. Tom, for yourself.
Yeah, I think well, basically, I think everybody was obviously watching it and has been swayed by our views entirely. No, that's it. We can only myself and James the influence we have over the Dundalk fan base. No, I think I think go back to the type of game it was. It was two functional teams playing against each other, where it was going to be that moment of magic, that little bit something different, and we've seen it regularly over the season, where Sean Keogh has made the difference. And for me, not alone providing the assist for the goal, but that wasn't a fluke. That wasn't as if he was just playing solid all night and he suddenly went for a gap and saw it. He's consistently overlapping with Darrell Horgan. He's consistently looking to put that ball in. Does it always happen? No. But he's always looking for the option. There's a reason he's an underage international player. There's a reason he scored 2 goals so far at left back. As a teenager, if Dundalk can keep him for a long period of time, I would be very, very surprised. But no, for me, in a team full of sevens or full of even 7.5, 8s, I don't want to. But for me, he stood out tonight and just was that difference maker.
Yeah. I think, like I say, in a game which seemed to be a little war of attrition, it was always just going to be one little moment of magic. Somebody to just take that on, and as we discussed, to have the bravery to hit the pace and dive into the box at that time. It really seems to be a move that he loves, that possibly the more football he's playing, the more confident he gets with it. But he realizes now it's such a troubling place to run in for defenders. No one wants to touch you when you've got that sort of pace, power behind you, and you're in a dangerous area. So absolutely same for me. Sean Keogh, definitely a match. Now, Dean Arrowsmith's come in with a sneaky little Keogh man of the match. Now, I'm not having that. Him trying to sneak in here. You can't have people on the pod win the competition, even though he is coming back next week. But I think if he rolled up with to Tony's Pizzeria, Vinny might kick him out now for a snake and L pizza at it. So, but first in tonight was Jams on YouTube. So look, if you want to get in contact with us, we'll sort it out with Vinny and just let him know who it is that's ordering it. But look, there is a 15-inch pizza on us here at the podcast, courtesy of Tom for picking the man of the match there tonight. So go and enjoy that. And as always, thank you to Vinny and everybody at Tony's Pizzeria for their continued support on the podcast. Tom, we're into the wee hours of Friday night. You finish work early today thinking life was going to be easy on your Easter holidays, and I've drained every part of your Friday night out. But thanks so much, Tom. Thanks everybody for listening and watching in. I did remember tonight to keep an eye on to the comments coming in on Instagram. I can't pull them up on this, but plenty coming in there. Plenty of footballers watching in, so maybe they're on the drive home or whatever, keeping an eye to see what we thought of the game. So fair play to everyone that's on there as well. A couple of shout outs for Vinny Leonard and stuff as well for a solid performance again tonight on Instagram. So thanks for everyone for that. Thanks as always to Donald Green for his continued support on the podcast, obviously for his support with Dundalk Village and Player Fit. It looks like we're just nailing down the last little parts, but we will have a new shirt for this year. If anyone remembers any classics from back in the first division, We might have a retro version of a cracker coming for you. All I can say is, if anyone remembers a good away jersey in green, you might be pleasantly surprised about what's coming on that. So keep all eyes peeled. We're just, as I said, sealing down the last of that, and we will hopefully be able to release that very, very soon. Tom, I don't know if Michelle will want to see you anymore this night, but if you can, go and spend a bit of time with herself. And that leaves us all really with to say, look, it's another win for Dundalk. We finish out the first round of results at top of the table. Couldn't be in a better place as we start the next round of fixtures. Hopefully, it's something similar. And until then, come on to town.
My black and white scarf, my black and white scarf, my black and white scarf, my black and white, yeah, it's black and white, we're just black and white, it's my black and white, it's my black